You're welcome to Business Daily on Trust TV. My name is Chamun Dabeng. Let's talk numbers. Let's take a look at the market this morning. You're welcome back, and once again, my name is Chamun Dabeng. Now, it's no secret that the Nigerian oil sector has had to deal with a number of issues. Now, it has had to deal with decreased crude production and exports, oil theft, pipeline attacks, stalled economic reforms and recovery, and the threat of oil price volatility. Well, after 20 years of rejection, suspension, and approval, on the 16th of August 2021, President Muhammadu Buhari passed the Petroleum Industry Act into law. Now, the key objective of the PIA is to overhaul and transform the Nigerian oil sector and also create a more conducive environment for growth within the sector, as well as address legitimate grievances of communities most impacted by the extractive industries. Now, the PIA has been 20 years in the making, as I said earlier. And the question is the PIA the savior of the Nigerian economy? Is it addressing the right issues or just old ones? Now, joining me in the studio today to find the answer to these questions are economist and financial analyst Steve Nwachukwu and also business developer John Bosco and Izinwa. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Now, 20 years in the making, it's finally been passed and, they're working towards the implementation. But I would like to know what your personal thoughts on the PIA is. Let me start off with you, Mr. Steve.
Oh, thank you. Well, the issue of PIA is a good development, but the only thing is the hype. The government have actually kind of focused on it. It's just the hype. But PIA Act is a very good development. It helps to give a direction of where oil and gas sector in Nigeria is looking at and where we are focusing on. But the aspect where I have issues is with the aspect of removal of subsidy, because it makes it an open market. It makes it a very free economy where you buy and sell at a very market prevailing rate, not government subsidizing the petroleum or any of the byproducts of the crude. So this is the way I have issues, because we have not still fixed our refineries. We have not still done the underground work that actually prepare that economic revolution that PIA ought to have brought. But the government actually just focused on removal of fuel subsidy. That was why they were quick to sign that or quick to pass that bill into us so that they can have...
It had nothing to do with the unbundling of the NNPC.
Well, the unbundling of the NNPC was not even done to the context of what Nigerians expected. If you needed to unbundle NNPC, you needed to totally remove NNPC from the hands of government. You totally... Unbundling to me implies that you have to privatize NNPC. If it means selling NNPC, sell NNPC, let it be operated like any other companies that run or operated in Nigeria, so that you don't have the hands of politicians, you don't have the content or have the input of politicians into our oil and gas sector, so that you have a free economy, a free business operating economy for most of the oil companies.
But would that really ensure the functionality of the body itself? Because we've had situations where government bodies have been privatized. Like a perfect example would be NEPA, which became a PHCN and all of that. But as it is, we still do not have constant electricity. It still comes with its faults. I mean, so what would really be the difference with it being in the hands of a private body or being in the hands of the government sector if the people are at the end of the day not getting that, that full difference?
Well, you're right. You always have that very intrigues of the politics or having politicians having to influence most of this very process, influencing the process of the selling of this very asset or selling or privatizing this asset. So this is where you have the challenge. But if you are sincere enough as a leader and a CEO of Nigeria, you ensure that you don't have the hands of politicians, you don't have the hands of those in government buying over these institutions and making them also moribund or not functioning to the optimal where Nigerians expected. So this is a challenge. But if you are sincere, like I said, you will get to revolutionize the oil and gas sector to the point where Nigerians will benefit, where industry players, you have people from across the world will come and invest in that very sector. This is what we ask for.
All right, John Bosco.
Well, interestingly, I think the PIA was well thought out. It took 20 years, as you mentioned, but it was an innovation on the part of government and everybody involved. Don't forget, the 8th Senate tried to put out, to make it an act. They tried to make a bill out of it, but it was omnibus, it was everywhere. There's a lot of documentation, no understanding on many of the things. But don't forget where we are coming from. Don't forget that years ago we were hearing about the offshore-onshore dichotomy, we got to the regulation and all of that. This is how we got here. There was a lot of thought, a lot of innovation. So now, for me, I think that this is encompassing, given that businesses are going to come out of this because the government thought it out through. You have environment taken care of, you have the social safety net for the host communities taken care of. You have government even looking for investment and sustainable development coming from this from the PIA. It's encompassing. Now the most important thing here is it gives room for new players, a lot of change. Even the NNPC is going to become a limited liability company, which will be held by government, which the Ministry of Finance, as well as the...
Going to become or has already become?
Yes, has already become, yes, it's now here. So because one of the things in the Act is saying that in 6 months this should happen, it's happened already. Now this is why we are having new players coming in. So you have on the upstream sector, the upstream area, you have authority, you have 2 regulatory agencies at that end, the authority as well as the commission. They're doing a whole lot to manage these 2 ends. Now new players are going to come in, people with experience. Don't forget, experts that is working around the world that know about this industry are coming in. The environment is taken care of because government is doing things about the hydrocarbon tax. That's going to happen. The community are taken care of, which means businesses will come up with this. Now the question is, what about the climate? We're still talking about hydrocarbon-based economy, oil and gas, where we're moving to cleaner energy. Yes, cleaner energy will happen, but in Africa we still have to accommodate the population we have, use the technology that we have currently. It is no gainsay that we have the refinery Dangote is making, and other refineries coming up as well, because these refineries in the future will cater for Africans, the African market, not just Nigeria. Everywhere West Africa is going to use all of this, and so we're getting ready. For me, I see it as a good thing. The hype, yeah, that's a hype, but now it's for investors, it's for businesses to take up the gazettes, take up documentation, look at where they fit in, and start moving in.
Okay, so I had said this earlier on, but yes, we were actually discussing, I talked about the ambiguous language that was actually used in the Gazette itself, which does pose a threat to a lot of people. Let me not say it poses a threat, it poses a challenge to a lot of people, because it's one thing for you to read the words, but do you really understand what is actually being said to you? So it's really not just about them picking it up. Do you really understand it? And how well can you use it to your own advantage once you do read it? But anyway, yes, you did talk about businesses, you talked about host communities. Rightly, as Mr. Steve had brought up earlier on, he spoke about the subsidy removal. Now, you do have to take a look at businesses. We've had a discussion about the manufacturing sector, also had that with Mr. Steve. And of course, the subsidy removal is going to affect the manufacturing sector, and that's not the only sector. You also have to look at transportation sector. You have to look at so many other sectors that require the use of power and fuel. They are all going to be affected by this. So how does this now, work for these areas? I mean, they are businesses.
Is that for
Please
me?
go ahead.
Okay, I think the questions that we should be asking the players, like the government key players, from the Minister of Petroleum to Minister of Finance and the rest of them, or the presidency, is what are these basic things, content in this very PIA that solve the local content or that solve the Nigerian problems? When we're talking about oil and gas, an average Nigerians is just looking at oil and gas, the petroleum. They're just looking at the petrol, the fuel they buy. What aspect of this bill grant you that you sell or you buy this petroleum product at a very reasonable price? That's what matters to Nigerians. We are talking about fuel subsidy removal, but like I said earlier, let me still re-emphasize on it. The main purpose of this PIA is just to make sure that this fuel subsidy removal is enshrined, is a lawful thing. Because the law of the PIA insists that there won't be any subsidy. That's the essence. Why are they having 6 months to 1 year period of implementation? Why are they talking about February to June, July, when the fuel subsidy will be no more? It's just the implementation of the PIA. The question remains, what aspect or the content of this PIA that benefits Nigerians? What aspect of this PIA that ensures that your petroleum products are refined here, or your crude are refined here and sold at a reasonable price to Nigerians? This is the questions Nigerians are asking. This is what is pertinent to Nigerians. What content of this PIA make sure that diesel is sold with less than 150 naira? What content, what aspect of this very PIA that ensures that when you go to buy petroleum product, it will be available? These are what we should be looking at. As we speak, we are witnessing a bit of scarcity of petroleum product. What aspect of this content of this PIA ensures that there would be sufficient supply? This is what Nigerians should be looking at. This is what we should be querying. Yes, the PIA, like I said, is just a hype. Is a hype. They continue to hype it. No aspect of this PIA, the aspect that should rather ensures or make sure that something is returned back to the host community. What is the percentage? We are talking about 5%. It was rather dropped to 3%. So this is the point. If actually it was to make sure that this host community benefit from this very oil that's been extracted from their communities, it should have been done something above 5%. But 5% was not still sustainable, was not even successful. It has to drop to 3%. This is what I'm saying.
Yes,
the aspect of the PIA is just to ensure that there is a successful regime of removal of petroleum or subsidy on petroleum products.
All right, Johnny.
So I take it from there. True, all of this what is happening?
Their concerns.
Their concerns. The government simply want to take out the subsidy, given that it is not sustainable. Look, running that subsidy regime is not sustainable, given that the government understands that 90% of foreign exchange is coming from petroleum sector. Of course, you still use that to subsidize it. So the government is going to full-time business. Full-time business means that there must be profit. And so the NNPC, which is currently, it's doing a whole lot to make sure that they are sustainable, to make sure that they have investment coming to that space. Now we know we are looking at how does this benefit the community, how does this benefit the ordinary Nigeria. We know when subsidy goes out, we know that with transportation hike and all of that. This is the place for innovations. This is the place for me. I'm more interested because I know that Nigerians are really Nigerians are ready. Trust me. For a while, we'll just take the hit, and then after a while, we'll come out strong. Businesses are going to come. I'm more interested. You mentioned the gazette being technical, a lot of writing. It took 1 week for that gazette to come out. 16th, the president signed it. 27th, we have a gazette. So you see, a whole lot went into work. But now we need to take it up and see the areas where we are coming in, the areas where businesses will come up. And I'm simply waiting. We are moving into the what I call the Eden phase. What it means is that businesses will thrive for themselves in that space, because government is simply wanting to make money. now and not spend so much.
All right, so still coming back to the host communities, like we talked about the 3% that was allocated to those host communities, even though they had requested 10%. Now, there has always been the issue of vandalism and pipeline attacks and all of that. That 3%, is it really going to solve that issue?
I think the issue of the host communities is still a controversy. Who is a host community? That's the aspect of the ambiguity of you were talking about in the bill. That's why, to tell you, the entire issue of the PIA was just to make sure the issue of subsidy is constitutionally or by law totally taken care of. It wasn't actually to solve the existing problems, because the issue of who is a host community is still a controversy. Those who says that where the pipelines pass through, they are also host community. You're talking about pipeline vandalism and the rest. So the issue of the host community is still a controversy until we get to understand who actually is a host community in the art or definition of the PIA, the content of that aspect of the host community receiving 3%. So now this is the same thing. Yes, will that solve the issue of the vandalism? To an extent, it will, because when you take custody, when you take this pipeline to the custody of the host community with a certain percentage being paid to them, they will make sure they protect it. The best way to protect a community or a village is to hire the bad people in that very community to guide the same community, because they know who is bad and good in that community. So if you say community,
that's an interesting solution.
Yeah, the entire community, you cannot say the bad or everybody is a member of the community. So okay, we are in custody of these pipelines that run across us. We are in custody of these facilities that's within us. Whatever happens, we all become responsible. So, and there are certain percentage are being paid to you, not only for you to protect, it's also for you to benefit because of the hazard nature of those products or those equipment or those materials or what being extracted or the spillage you can have and other within your community, so that you can readily, you can easily, though it's also under context. Actually, is it 3% to meant for those communities when there is spillage to take care of the spillage? I think that is no. It's for the development of the communities and also to make sure that those very properties and assets of government or companies or corporate organizations that passes through those areas are well protected.
So interestingly, right, I love your expression on the community. Now you see, it's just simple. It's simple logic. You give the rat the fish to keep for you. But that's not the point. The point is, the bill, very importantly, supports development in the host community. Now, when it comes to those communities, not just that, because the government is interested in the environment, the companies operating are in charge of the environmental hazard and all of the things that happens. The companies, in the bill specifies that the act specifies that companies working, they have to have the environmental assessment, they have to get all of this done. Now, for the community now understands that we have to take ownership. Ownership is key. Given that the government has thought about this, it means that the community is now taking ownership of that. So the community will be quick to report spillage or where there's a
vandalism or anything.
Do arrest, monitor and police the pipelines and the facilities the government has put in place. Now, that means that they are involved. Every single person involved is not just up there for the elite. Of course, we understand it's an act.
So it now becomes a thing for the people to be involved in and also protect. So it gives them more of a sense of ownership. All right. So we don't have a lot of time, but like Mr. Steve asked earlier on, he said, what problems is it solving for the Nigerian populace? And I'm very sure that that's something that many people out there would want to know, that the PIA is designed to get down to even the smallest person, or the person that feels that, oh, I'm just in one corner and my corner it hasn't really been noticed. We actually want to see the PIA get to that level where it touches, almost every single Nigerian out there. All right, so we have come to the end of our show for today, and I would like to thank my guests in the studio. Thank you so much, Mr. Steve, for being a part of the show. And thank you so much, Mr. John Bosco, for being a part of the show. And to all our viewers out there, thank you so much for watching. Please do follow us on our social media platforms. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Just look us up at TrustTV News. You definitely see us there. Well, once again, my name is Chamun Dabeng. Come back again for more Business Daily. Let's talk numbers.